Okay, hi everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar today. We are going to go over jurying on ZAPP. We're going to go over all of the different aspects of the jury today. So how to prepare for your jury, juror view questions, how to add jurors, how to set up your admin page for the jurors, all of that kind of information, and then communicating those jury results with your artists. So the couple of things that you'll want to keep an eye out here is whenever anyone is submitting their applications, they all go into the receive status. Unless you have check payment set up and they paid their application fee by check, then they're sent over to this awaiting payments by check status. So you might want to keep an eye on that status. If there's anyone in there, make sure you get their check, of course, and then you can go ahead and move them over to reviewed. So whenever you get people in received, typically we recommend to review all of your applications as they come through so that you can make sure that they meet all of your qualifications. If you need them to modify any images, like if you have a blind jury, then they submitted an image with their name in it, you need them to remove that. So make sure that you're reviewing. The easy way to do this is if you click on the application number, by the status that you're in. So typically they'll be in received. Then you can click on the application ID. And this will bring up all of the information for the account. So any custom questions that you asked, their medium category, any tags that you've created for them, all of their images, which you can click into to see any details that they have here. Any payments that they've made, email sent, that kind of thing. Then once you've reviewed it, everything looks good. You can change the status right here from typically received to reviewed, and then you can change the status. So that'll save. And then everyone who you've reviewed, you can keep in the reviewed status. If you see something that they need to modify on their end, you can move them into the incomplete status, which the incomplete status is used for those who need to make a modification to their application before your application deadline. If it's past your deadline and you're giving a couple of days for you guys to review on your end and have some changes to make, you can also use the exception status. So the incomplete status, artists can resubmit their application before your deadline. The exception status, they'll just have to tell you, and then you can review again and make sure it meets your requirements and then move them back up to reviewed. So those are a couple of options. Another couple of statuses here to be aware of are the other status, which is kind of like a catch-all status, and you guys can use it however you need. Artists on their end don't see any difference in status change here. So if you just need to separate one person out because you had, I don't know, something with them, you can use the other status. The other one is the exempt from jury status. And this status is typically for those who they may have been an award winner last year and you need to not jury them this year. So you can just move them to the exempt status. A couple of things to note about the exempt status. Anyone who is in that status will have access to any active booth purchases. So just make sure if you're not ready to sell booths, so those products are disabled. The other thing, another question that came through with the webinar questions is how can you review all of the exempt artists for the jurors? So we kind of have a workaround here. What I would recommend in that case is creating a tag for anyone who is exempt from jury. So you can say exempt from jury. You can add this tag. Okay, it's probably too long. So exempt from jury. Then anyone who's in this tag, you can separate out first. So on the management page, if we're in one of these statuses, you can filter by, or you can search for a tag. So we call that exempt jury. It'll pull up anyone who is in that tag. So this is really helpful if you want to first have your jurors have a day or two to access the exempt from jury applicants. If you move all of those applicants first over to the receive status, then those are the only applicants that will be in the jury pool for jurors to see. So they can review all of those applications. They wouldn't necessarily have to score unless you want them to. Then once those have been reviewed by your jurors, that process is done. You can move them over to like the exempt from jury status, where they have now access to make that booth purchase if they like. And then at that point, you could use all of your reviewed applicants that are not exempt back into the received status. So that's just a little workaround that you could do if you want to review all of those exempt from jury statuses artists before your jury actually starts. So the other thing to note here is that your jury pool is only ever going to populate from anyone who is in the receive status. So right now, if I was to log in as a juror for this account, they wouldn't see anything. They would be like, where are all the applicants? I don't know. But there's a quick way to move all of your applications over. So you've reviewed them all and they need to move back into the receive status. So if you scroll down here at the bottom, you can move all of your reviewed applicants back to received. And then you'll click this change button. And then now all of our applications are over here in received. So we can go ahead and start our jury. The other thing to kind of prepare for is creating juror accounts. So when you're on your show, if you go over to jury administration, you can see any juror who is assigned to the show down in this second little section here. So this is anyone who currently has access to the jury. The other page to be aware of for juror accounts is under jury, there's this jurors tab. And this lists any active accounts on your account. So if you have multiple shows and different people jury one show and different people jury the other, then you would list all of those jurors that are active. Here we can go in and edit any jurors that are already created. So if you had jurors from last year and they're juring again, you can use their account again. Easy enough. You just need to give them access again to the new show. And if you want to just start cleaning these up, it's nice to do that every once in a while as well. So you can just change this status to disabled should you not need it anymore. Not going to do this to Tim actually right now because he might need that account. But then otherwise, you can add new jurors account. You can also see any disabled accounts by clicking the show disabled button. And then you can add new accounts by clicking add new. And adding a juror account, reminder, takes 2 steps. So we first need to add in a username. So you can make this up however you want. Good. And then you're going to set yourself a password. And then a first name, you can add in all of their contact information. And then you can click this add button. And now I have an active juror account, but if I were to log into this account right now, I wouldn't see anything because I don't have jury access. So if you have multiple shows and you have 2 shows that are running juries at the same time, you just need to make sure that you grant people access. So click this checkbox for whatever show you need them access to and click save. So that's how you set up a juror account. This top section is really where we want to focus on. So you can make sure all of your accounts, all your jurors have been assigned to the show. Anyone who is assigned to the show will show up in this little list. So you can quickly verify that. And then we need to change some settings over here. So we have a bunch of different like customizable settings that you can change as you need. We have the current jury status. So whenever you change this status, if it's in progress, that means jurors will have access to the jury page. If it's either not yet started or completed, no one has access to make any scores. The jury view, I'll show you guys the differences once we log into a juror account. if it's projection or full screen monitor. Full screen monitor is typically for most of our shows use a full screen monitor process. It goes through the images one by one for the juror account, and then they'll have a scorecard at the end. For the projection jury, those are more directed towards our projected software that's called Jury Buddy. So if clients are projecting all of their images on one screen or on one wall or something, then all the jurors will have like a separate scorecard that identifies the artist, and then they can score together in one room. Then you have different scoring types. So 1 through 7, yes, no, maybe, 1 through 5, or 1 through 10. If you score the scoring order type, this only shows how the view is of if 1 is on the left or 7 is on the right, or the opposite, 7 is on the left, 1 is on the right. So low to high, 1 will be on the left-hand side. It doesn't actually change that 7 is high. It just changes the order of how it's viewed. The subsort of your applications. So how are the artists sorted by medium category? That'll be depicted here. Apps per page. This is now modifiable on the juror side, so this one is a little bit less relevant. The high current artist status. This is a big one for mainly post-jury to remember to turn back to no. So this status will block anyone from making any purchases on ZAPP for your account. So it'll also change the view of the artists to make their status jury in progress. So they will not see any changes that you're making as you're jurying. So, you can move people around to whatever status you like. They will not see anything. This next show body of work, this will show either the body of work or not show it. If you're doing a blind jury, you can show your artist names or not show them. This is the artist statement. So this is the statement of materials and technique. That's a required question on all of our applications. You can either show that or not. The sample descriptions are descriptions that artists add when they add images to their account. So you can have that active or not. Thumbnails. This will show either one or none or all, and I'll show you all how this sort of looks on the juror side as well here. And then image prices. Okay, so Greg asked a question. Does the account block apply to one shows or all? To all one shows or one just being juried? This is just for the jury that's in the current active. So you'd have to change it per event. So if you have multiple events, this is only for the one account. So this is the landing page for once a juror logs in and you have all your settings correct, of course. Then you can, they'll have the option here initially to select a medium category. So if you've assigned your jurors to a specific medium, then we can then you'll just instruct them, select the medium you've been assigned, please. And then you can go on from there. I'm just going to select all categories from now. And then here we have a list of all applications and in order of the order applications that you selected on your jury setup page. Here they have the option to review the images. So once you click review images, you'll get like this pop-up box for all jurors. Then they can go into full screen mode, which is something that we definitely recommend, just because it'll look a little bit better for the jurors. So initially we have the show body of work is active right now. So they will see this overview page of all of the images for the artist. They'll see the artist's name. So currently we have the artist name active. If you're doing a blind jury, you can turn off the artist name. You can also right now see the statement of materials and technique, and you can click this read more button. If there was more and it was cut off, we have a character limit there. So they can kind of see that information. From here, they have buttons here at the bottom of the page that navigate to the next image. So we have an expand the window button, a previous button, and a next button. So we'll just click the next button. and then we'll get the first image. As jurors are going, they can zoom in on the image so that they can, like if there's fine details that they want to see and they really want to get in there, depending on the image, it'll zoom in more or less, depending on what the artist uploaded. So then they can kind of review all of these images as needed. They also have this eye icon information. So this will give a little bit more details about the specific image that they're looking at. So if you have prices active, you can see the price. If you have the name active, you can see the name. A lot of these can be disabled if you like through that first administration page. So then once you get through the end of the last image, once you click the next button, there's no scorecard because we're in the review section right now. So then I'm just moved on to the next applicant, and I can just continue to review all of these applications. Just so artists can get a kind of an idea, or jurors can get like an idea of what all artists have submitted for this specific show. Then I'm gonna just, for now, once you get to the end, you'll have an option to exit. For now, I'm gonna click the escape button to get out of this, and then I'm gonna just close this window. So now no scores have been added. There wasn't a score button for me because we were in the review images section. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the score section. So now this is a very, very similar page. It's going to look and feel exactly the same like the review, but this time at the end, we're going to see a scorecard. So I'm going to go through these images again. I can still zoom in. You can slide this zoomer bar to slide in, or you can scroll up and down, scroll in and out. So then we're going to continue to kind of go through all of these images. And now we're on a scorecard page. So on this page, we can go back and click on any of these images to go back and see it again. We really wanted to see something else on a certain image, and then you can kind of click back through the images. Once you're on the scorecard page, you have a scoring option. So right now we had it left to right. So and a scorecard of 1 to 7. So this, you can either change 1 to 5, 1 to 10, 1 to 7, or yes, no, maybe. So we're going to score this application by clicking the dot associated, and then you can leave any comments that you'd like, and click this green save this score button. This is a pretty important one to make sure you're saving all of your scores and nothing is getting lost. So we want to save that score. Once you click that button, it moves on to the next application, and you can keep going. So then you can review all of the images, save the score. So then they'll keep on going until they're done with all of the applications, either in their discipline that they were assigned to or not. As they go, they'll be able to see any scores that they have added at a glance on this page. Here they can also click this show thumbnails, which will show the first image in all of the applications. Just for like a quick reference, if you want to remember specifically who this artist might have been, and then you can review anything. So once you have a score in there, you have an option to click this review button. This review button will take you back to the artist's application, and you can kind of scroll through it again, review it again, and then you can rescore if you'd like. So you gave it a 7 and you're like, oh, I don't want that, I wanted a 5. And then you can save it. Then you can close this window again, and this score will update. Alternatively, if you're just reviewing this and you haven't scored yet, you'll have a score button. Same functionality, it'll just take you to the page, and you can review the images and then enter your score and save it. Another really great feature that we have is this score remaining artist button. So this will take you to a slideshow of anyone who you have not yet scored. So it'll exclude anyone who has a score. This is really helpful if you want to make sure that you are not forgetting anyone, or if you notice on your end that someone missed a score, you're not seeing all of the scores, instruct them to click the score remaining artists so that it just automatically populates anyone who they haven't scored yet. So that's helpful. Our jurors now also have an option to download all of the scores. So they can download a version for whichever round they prefer, just so that they have a record of their scores. Yeah. Oh, another thing I'll just quickly point out from the juror scorecard section is this profile section. If they were opted into MFA and they're getting frustrated by it, they can always come back here and select the remind me later so that it disables that feature. Okay, so now we're back over on this jury administration page. I'm going to pull up the Snowy Range show again. And we can see that the account that I just created, so this Marika Bergen account, 6 scores were scored in round 1. Then here at the bottom, we can see exactly what scores were entered. If multiple of your jurors have scored, this will show the average that people scored. Any comments, any individual scores from each juror will appear here. So you can see, both Bergen and Pasentino, they both scored this one, but we're missing Alvarez's score. You can kind of see who is missing there. And from this page, you can also download any like pre-jury reports, or I should have mentioned this before. You can download like a printable score sheet if you need that, or any all discipline counts. So how many people are in each disciplines. Those are kind of nice pre-jury reports. But once you're in this page, you can see all of the applications. You can add any admin notes. So if you need to write any internal notes, this is only accessible to any admins. No artists will see any of these comments. Or you can, I noticed that someone is in the wrong status here or something, you can move them here as well. Once you have all of your scores entered for all of your, from all your jurors, then we're going to move on to removing artists. So this page sometimes confuses a lot of people, but I just want to reassure everyone that a lot of the changes that you make here are never permanent. You can always move artists back into the received status, and then kind of redo this process if you need to. So don't feel bad about testing things out and moving people around here. We have hide current artist status set to yes, so no artists are seeing any changes right now. You can play around with it as you need. So here on this page, on this remove artist page, we have some instructions here at the top for some quick reference for you guys. But the main gist of this page is you'll have how many artists are in each medium category, the average score for all of these artists. So what was the average? A remove threshold. So at what threshold, or like what score do people not meet your requirements? So if you have scores in place already, that's great. If you just want to use the average, like they did not meet the average, then they do not get an invite to my show. But you can modify these as needed. So, and then you see how many people are going to be removed and how many people are remaining in this status. So for ceramics here, we have 3 artists. The average score was 5.71. The remove threshold, these are automatically set to the average. 1 person did not meet the average, 2 people did. So 2 people, or 1 person is going to be removed and 2 people will remain. So once you set up this, we'll just kind of modify a few. So we'll just kind of do this. Maybe this one, I could do like a 2. And then once you kind of make your remove threshold modifications, you can click this update thresholds, and this will modify which people are to be removed and which are to remain. So then you can kind of relook at this and say like, oh no, we actually do need these 2 photography people to make it in. Or like half of them. Then you can update those thresholds as needed. You can kind of keep seeing who's remaining. And then once you're ready, once you have a good feel of who's staying, who's leaving, you need to select all of the disciplines that you want to look at next. So you can choose not to like include digital media if you don't want. A lot of people do it all at once. So we'll just do that. And then we can click this preview button. So now we're taken to this page, and this is a list of anyone who is going to be removed based on your threshold. So currently we have 2 people who did not meet our thresholds, and we do not want to invite them to our show. So they're automatically changed to not invited. You can also, like if you see this and you're like, oh, this person is actually exempt, we missed that, something like that, you can move them over to like invited or a different status if you need to. You can kind of modify that as needed. Or if you think, oh, they really should have been in the wait list, you can make that modification here. But otherwise, you can just click this remove artist status, or click this remove artist. You'll get a confirmation that you want to remove these 2 artists from this jury pool, and you'll click OK. So now what did this do? This changed the status of 2 applications. They were in the receive status, and now those 2 applications are in the not invited status. So if you're like, oh, I just did this button and I messed up, I can just move all of these artists back into the receive status, and then they'll be back in the jury pool, and you can kind of do that process again. But otherwise, they'll just move over to not invited because they didn't meet your thresholds and they're not invited to your show. So now if we go back to the jury administration page, if you do multiple rounds, this is the time when you would want to update your round. So we have done this remove artists in advanced rounds. So we've removed the artists, and now we're going to move on to the second round of jurying. So we'll go to jury round 2, and we'll click this save button. So at this point, from the juror's end, they will now see anyone who's left in the jury received status. So anyone besides those 2 people who were removed, they're left in this status. And now all scores are just saved through round 1, and jurors have a new fresh start to rescore all applicants and in that second round. So if you do multiple rounds of jurying, now you can tell your jurors log back in, rescore all of the applications that are left, and we'll remove artists again. Otherwise, we move on to the invite artists, finalizing your jury selection. So we'll click this invite artist button. And now this page looks very similar to the remove artist page, but it's kind of the opposite thing that's happening. So instead of removing artists, we're seeing who met the threshold to be invited to your show. So at this point, if you lower any of these, so typically anyone who we've removed, we're not inviting. So now at this point, it should be anyone who's left is invited. But this is a good opportunity to like set a threshold for people who are actually invited versus people who might be waitlisted, who didn't meet a score high enough to maybe make it into your show, but are waitlisted. So now you can kind of modify these thresholds again to kind of meet those needs. So we'll just kind of play around in here. And then we can click this update thresholds button. See if I did anything. Good. Okay, so if you'll notice this top one, if they didn't get a 7 score, they're going to remain in the jury pool. Apparently, we're being really strict, and you had to get high marks to be in ceramics. So then, again, we're going to click this check all button, and then we're going to go over to this preview page. So now this page lists anyone who met your threshold, and they are going to be invited to your show. So again, here's another opportunity for you to review your applications and, oh, like this person, they didn't have a high enough average score. We can move them over to the wait list. And you can kind of like play around with that as needed. And then at this point, you're going to click this invite artist button. Once you finalize this list, click the invite artists. Button, it'll load. And now we only have people who didn't meet the threshold left in our application pool. So if we go back over to the events management page, we'll see that 9 people are left and received. And 2 people we moved over to the wait list, and 8 people we moved over to the invited status. And now we kind of have a finalized jury. So next steps here would be to communicate this with your artist. So no automatic emails are ever sent for the jury. So you're going to have to go over to this communications tab. I mean, I know we also had a question about automizing or like sending out emails and communications and streamlining that process. So this is a little bit more about the communication tool here. So here on this page, if you go to events communication, you can find your event in the current event dropdown. And then you can email anyone who is in one status or multiple statuses if you need. So I invite all of my artists. So I'm going to click all of the invited statuses. You can filter this further by like tagged or flagged applicants. We're not going to do that today. And now here we can compose our email. Another thing that you guys can do to kind of prepare for your jury is set templates. So we have this option to save up to 10 templates. And if you click this edit templates button, you'll see a list of all of the templates. So then you can click on a name of a template and kind of modify it as needed. So we also have a couple of templates automatically set up in our system to use as needed. There are a bunch of like highlighted sections that you're just going to have to modify to make sense for your show. But it includes instructions on how to use ZAPP specifically for artists to like accept the invitation or some kind ways to send like rejection letters. Those are all outlined there. So you can feel free to modify templates, have those set and ready before your jury is done. And then once you're done, then you can just send those out pretty quickly. If you want to insert a template, you can select from the drop-down menu here, a template to add. And here you have the option to add the not invited or the wait list templates that we have automatically sent here. Then you're going to have to fill in all of the information. So who is this email from? Who are they replying to? If you want to BCC yourself, you can do that. Change your subject as needed. And here at the bottom, you can also include any juror scores and comments. So if you want those jury scores to be available to your artists for feedback or just so they know what score they got, you can do that. You can select which round you'd like to include, and then attach any emails you'd like. And then you can preview this email. And then you'll see this, how many emails are being sent to the invited show. You can make sure you don't have any errors here. And this is exactly what's going to be sent. So make sure you just kind of do a review there. And then once you're done, you can click this send these 8 emails. I'm not going to bother my colleague today by sending them emails. And otherwise, then you just kind of do that for all of the invited, all of the waitlist artists, and anyone who wasn't invited. Make sure we're communicating with our artists just so that they know, what's going on there. Thank you guys all for joining me today. And if anyone else has any other questions, we also have a great help center on juries. So if you go over to help.ZAPPlication.org, we have help for jurors and assistance on running your jury. So those are both great references. Feel free to shoot us a ticket through your account and we'll be able to get those questions answered. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.